I'm Margie Sheppard, and I'm from Great Bend, Kansas. I've chosen the book Little House on the Prairie by Laura Ingalls Wilder to read to you today. I had no idea it was a banned book, and it was banned in 1993 because it was offensive to Indians. Indians in the house. Early one morning, Pa took his gun and went hunting. He had meant to make the bedstead that day. He'd brought in the slabs when Ma said she had no meat for dinner, so he stood the slabs against the wall and took down his gun. Jack wanted to go hunting too. His eyes begged Pa to take him, and whines came up from his chest and quivered in his throat till Laura almost cried with him, but Pa chained him to the stable. "No, Jack," Pa said. "You must stay here and guard the place." Then he said to Mary and Laura, "Don't let him loose, girls." Poor Jack lay down. It was a disgrace to be chained, and he felt it deeply. He turned his head from Pa and would not watch him go away with the gun on his shoulder. Pa went farther and farther away till the prairie swallowed him and he was gone. Laura tried to comfort Jack, but he would not be comforted. The more he thought about the chain, the worse he felt. Laura tried to cheer him up to frisk and play, but he only grew more sullen. Both Mary and Laura felt that they could not leave Jack while he was so unhappy. So all that morning they stayed by the stable. They stroked Jack's smooth, brindled head and scratched around his ears and told him how sorry they were that he must be chained. He lapped their hands a little bit, but he was very sad and angry. His head was on Laura's knee, and she was talking to him when suddenly he stood up and growled a fierce, deep growl. The hair on his neck stood straight up, and his eyes glared red. Laura was frightened. Jack had never growled at her before. Then she looked over her shoulder where Jack was looking, and she saw two naked, wild men coming, one behind the other on the Indian trail. "Mary, look!" she cried. Mary looked and saw them too. They were tall, thin, fierce-looking men. Their skin was brownish red. Their heads seemed to go up to a peak, and the peak was a tuft of hair that stood up and ended in feathers. Their eyes were black and still glinting like snake eyes. They came closer and closer, then they went out of sight on the other side of the house. Laura's head turned and so did Mary's, and they looked up at the place where those terrible men would appear when they came past the house. "Indians," Mary whispered. Laura was shivering. There was a queer feeling in her middle, and the bones of her legs felt weak. She wanted to sit down, but stood and looked and waited for those Indians to come out from beyond the house. The Indians did not do that. All this time, Jack had been growling. Now he stopped growling and was lunging against the chain. His eyes were red and his lips curled back, and all around the hair of his back was bristling. He bounded and bounded clear off the ground, trying to get loose from the chain. Laura was glad that the chain kept him right there with her. "Jack's here," she whispered to Mary. "Jack won't let them hurt us. We'll be safe if we stay close to Jack." "They're in the house," Mary whispered. "They are in the house with Ma and Carrie." When Laura began to shake all over, she knew she must do something. She did not know what those Indians were doing to Ma and baby Carrie. There was no sound at all from the house. "Oh, what are they doing to Ma?" she screamed in a whisper. "Oh, I don't know," Mary whispered. "I'm going to let Jack loose," Laura whispered hoarsely. "Jack will kill them." "Pa said not to," Mary answered. They were too scared to speak out loud. They put their heads together and watched the house and whispered. "He didn't know Indians would come," Laura said. "He said not to let Jack loose." Mary was almost crying. Laura thought of baby Carrie and Ma, shut in the house with those Indians. She said, "I'm going in to help Ma." She ran 2 steps and walked a step, then she turned and flew back to Jack. She clutched him wildly and hung on to his strong, panting neck. Jack wouldn't let anything hurt her. "We mustn't leave Ma in there alone," Mary whispered. She stood still and trembled. Mary never could move when she was frightened.